This is the intro before the intro. Yes, we are back at Decoding Dreams Podcast. Look for it on all your podcast platforms and or apps because I am excited. The series we're getting into now is getting right into the middle of it all. Are you ready to talk about astral projection? What is astral projection? What are the benefits of astral projection? How does one astral travel, yet your body, your flesh, is still on your bed? Let's get into it.
Are your dreams trying to tell you something? Author M.B. Mosley teaches you how to decode your dreams and take hold of the manifestations that lay in wait for you in the waking realm. Now, broadcasting all over the world, it's the Dream Interpretation Podcast.
Decoding Dreams Podcast is a podcast geared to teach you on how to understand the dreams that are coming through to you in your spiritual dream realm. It is a podcast that teaches you on how to decipher and decode the symbols that are within the dreams in the spiritual dream realm. Of course, with a cautionary tale of understanding that each dream is unique to the person that dreams of the dream, and that not all dreams are a one-size-fits-all. Matter of fact, every single dream is different in context, in symbol, and in messages, depending on one's personal beliefs, spiritual background, religious beliefs, and all other kinds of characteristics that can pertain to that. Here at Decoding Dreams, I teach you on the basics of understanding the general symbols so that you can then put those symbols next to your personal waking life and unravel the gift of message from the spiritual dream realm. Peace, love, and happiness, family. I am so excited to be back behind the microphone here at Decoding Dreams Podcast. And you all, I want to say thank you so much for downloading, subscribing, for playing the episodes. I really, really appreciate it. I love to look at the analytics. It's more so like my report card. And so it helps me understand which direction to go and which direction not to go and which direction to, double down on so that we can continue to learn about the spiritual dream realm and we can learn about the spiritual realm as it pertains to our waking life. So I'm so excited. I really hope that this podcast finds you and your family doing well in this season, sending good vibes to you, sending positive vibes, sending love vibes to you and your family. And to my global audience, I am humbled. You all, I'm having a good time with this podcast. I'm really, really humbled and I'm very appreciative of each and every one of you. All right, guys, so I'm excited, right? So hold on. We cannot just jump into it, right? Hello? All my life. No, I'm just kidding. So when this podcast started about, I believe it's 2 years now, Lord have all the mercy. And who's counting, right? Or who's keeping track? But when we started, my goal, because I knew when Spirit was putting this, when Spirit was bringing this up into my forefront, I knew that it was important for me to take it slow because I could get so excited and give information overload. So I knew how important and know how important things of the spiritual realm are important. Too many importance in there. But I knew how important, significantly important it would be. So because of that, I've been taking it really slow as it pertains to especially the Decoding Dreams section of the podcast. I felt it would be fair if we started off on the basics of just some general dream interpretation as it pertains to the dream realm. Now, those that have been following this podcast, you understand my disclaimer, and you also by now understand that dreams are not a one-size-fits-all. So therefore, we cannot just go on an assumption of of a one-size-fits-all method. We have to, include everybody into the equation. So that's why we've been taking it really slow, but I've been really itching to get to to this part. Really itching, but it was really important just for those that were even starting off by trying to understand the basic meaning of their dreams, or even just trying to understand how to figure it out. It was important to at least know the foundation or the layout of the land, right? And so now that we graduate and we keep going further, my excitement about it is you take all that basic learning you learned and you apply it to this next part of the teachings and, and everything that we're going to talk about, so that therefore you're able to further decode your dream. Okay. So let's get into it. We are talking about, it's cold. Well, it's not cold, but we are talking about the astral projection, but we are going to mainly talk about astral dreaming, right? I mean, same thing. You will break down bit by bit. So let's just say we'll umbrella it astral projection. All right. What is astral projection? So in a nutshell, astral projection, we could say, is a theory or an idea that the consciousness has the ability to leave the body, to have an out-of-body experience in what is considered as an astral body. Now I have to write down a note to self so that we could come back and talk about the astral body. But let's keep it just there for now, just in case we got people that are super brand new to astral projection. So it's the idea that the consciousness is leaving the body, but it's not a death. It's the idea that the consciousness is traveling to either past, present, and future. Okay? All right. Stay with me now. And so, since we talk about dreams, spiritual dream realm, we're going to talk about astral traveling in the dream state, which is something that I would be a little bit familiar with, because there's a lot of people that experience different experiences. Some can actually astral project, I guess, while they're sitting in the car in traffic. And, I mean, listen, look, okay? I'm taking it baby steps. Mine's usually my dream. I'm in the access to the astral part in the dream. Some people have, I've had people say that they were in traffic and they astrally projected to an accident. And like a couple miles down, sure enough, probably a few minutes before, so they crossed that intersection and an accident happened and so forth, just like how they'd seen it. So just take into mind and let's keep moving and get to understand. So we'll keep it there with astral projection, the idea of the consciousness leaving the body. We'll start off there. And then everyone that's listening to the podcast, you could now, as we build on this, you're able to put where you fall. Because once again, it's not a one size fits all. I might be familiar with the dreaming part, the astral dreaming traveling. And like I say, there are other people that are able to astral project during the daytime, out in traffic, out and about and so forth. So everyone gets to kind of, follow along and then have an awareness of where you fall individually. All right, class, let's keep it moving. So we got that. Boom, done. Are y'all ready yet? Are you ready? All right. So I thought it would be also awesome if we could do some references to some literature. And for those of you that wants to get into the nitty gritty of astral travel, one of my favorite books is called Astral Travel, Astral, Travel. It is written by Gavin and Yvonne Frost. The name of the book again is Astral Travel, Your Guide to the Secrets of Out of the Body Experiences. All right, so like you know how I do with honoring people's books. Now, this particular book, I have not yet seen it in an audible form the last time I checked. Of course, I'm pretty sure things are changing, maybe with demands of knowledge or people searching for knowledge. Maybe the publishers may make or may have made some audibles by now, but I've had this book for a little bit. And just a fun tidbit, it was published in 1982. So the information is researched. It's well written, but I only like to say that because in this year, in 2022, I know that there's also other studies that have come about, okay, to top off what this book has been talking about as well. So let's start off with our book read, Astral Travel, Your Guide to the Secrets of Out of the Body Experiences. Now, before I start off with that, we're going to get into the minutiae here of getting to know what a little bit about astral traveling. I just want to tell you all a funny story. So I am one of those, like, I guess, you could say playfully nosy, but I'm very curious. I'm a curious person, and I like to learn a lot. Like, I like to find out the why if I can. I do understand that they are mysteries that do not have a why, but I've always been that type of kid. And so, because everything is like, when I came into the astral projection and astral dreaming, I was like, OMG, this totally makes sense. And I want to say this because most of you that have been following the podcast, you know that I was born in Zimbabwe, right down below, close to South Africa. And so growing up, we would travel. Okay, so a quick backstory. So we grew up, what you would say, in the suburbs, right? A little bit out of the city, a little bit out of the capital city, but in the suburbs. And I'm just giving you that backstory so that everything kind of links up. And then my mother and father, they grew up in the village. So the villages they grew up in were a little bit travels out from the city, out from the burbs. And so special holidays, special occasions, whatever, whenever they felt like it, they would say, let's go to the village. Now, as children, I think for some of you, I may have told this story here before about, going to visit the village and whatnot. But, what's interesting is as children, I know I was very resistive. And I know my siblings pouted too. We never wanted to go to the village. But the villages were where my grandmothers lived, And because the villages that my parents grew up in, because it's not atypical for everybody's village, but the villages where my parents grew up in were like if you think back in the day, Discovery Channel, mud, clay, thatched huts and hay, straw, and all this, the works. And no electricity, no running water. So here's some kids from the burbs. And like, why would we want to go and live out where there's no civilization? Like, wait a minute. We want our amenities, I want, my power, my TV, running hot water. Okay. But as an adult, I now embrace that and I miss it. I miss it so much because I realize the serenity that was in the atmosphere when we visited the villages. I mean, it was quiet, but just animal sounds, unidentified animal sounds. Yeah, especially at nighttime. Check this out. My dad's kumushas, right? We call them the kumushas. It's the village, My dad's kumushas, fam. I'm talking about like when we were on our way over there, you seen all kinds of baboons, right? Hella baboons in the trees like, yo, what's up? What set are y'all from? You know, and I'm just kidding. But so, I mean, hella baboons, you know what I'm saying? Chilling in the trees, right? And so it's like when we got to the, like, they called it the growth point, but it was like little, you know, convenience stores, whatever, you know, mom and pop convenience stores. And then it's like we'll drive in the back where there was like no road. I don't even, like, up to this day, I don't know how my dad still remembered how to get to his home, because it wasn't any paved roads or dirt roads. It's just like the cars just veering left, veering right, going up a hump, bump, dump, whatever, you know. And then we would get there. Okay. And when we would get there, it's just so isolated. It's like 3 huts, you know, and a little later on, they built like a little building, still no electricity, but it's a little building, you know, with like 2 bedrooms, a little living room, whatnot. And that was it, because one of the huts was a kitchen. And, but before that building was up, when we were little kids, when we would go, mainly like to one of my memories of my father's Vilkamushas. When it got dark, let me tell you something. When that sun set, you wanted to be indoors. I'm just saying, okay? I'm just like, you couldn't pay me $100 to go outside. Like, look, when that sun set, if I had to pee, we're just going to see it in the morning. Because then, yeah, they had outhouses too. Right. And so you listen. So the little 3 huts are like right here. And then like you had to walk a little bit, like, you know, a little bit to get to the outhouse. I was like, the 3 little huts are right here, like y'all could see. But you get the point. Point being is, don't go outside at nighttime. You might get killed. As a kid, that's what I thought. And I mean, and then the outhouses was just like creepy too. They were just like creepy McGeepy. But now, point of the story is, so to pass time. Okay. So nighttime, the setting is clear skies. It's beautiful, beautiful weather, blah, 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 blah. But y'all, we had all kinds of noises. Up to this day, I don't know what some of those noises were, but the kids in the village that grew up in the village, right? I think, you know what? I think they were like, look at these little city slickers. You know what I mean? Now that I look back on it in hindsight 2020, I'm thinking about this now. They had been pulling all legs. Oh, they had so many ways of like putting the fear of whatever in us, right? Because there was nothing. There was no entertainment. So when the sun set, we're in this hut, which was the kitchen. And then at nighttime, we sleeping in the kitchen. It's a bedroom, you know, and so it's smoky in there. The fire is just barely hanging on. And so now what do you do after supper and everybody's hanging out? The stories come. This is where I learned all these scary stories. So they would start telling the stories, our cousins and them. And there's a familiar story that had always been told, you know, ever since I was a little kid in our little child circles, that had always scared me in life. And like you all that have been listening to the podcast, you all have heard me tell you all about my peoples and them, you know. If it's something we don't understand in my culture, it's the witch, you know. The witch did it. So listen. So one of the stories, right, was about Muroi. Muroi is the witch. The witch. Okay? And so the stories that had always been told to us that I'll always remember was the witch traveled at night. And so, you know, nosy, curious. I'm like, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me like witches travel at night? Like I'm asking questions, right? Like give me a pen and paper. And I'm like, so how do the witches travel at night? You know what I mean? Like my little brain was trying to like figure this out. And so my cousins would always say, and the stories would always stay consistent, but very dramatic, different dramatics and theatricals along the way. But my cousin would say that, oh, no, the witch traveled at night. And I'm like, yeah, but how does the witch travel? And then they say the witches, sexist in 2022, but they say the witches were women. I'm like, oh my gosh, so scared. And I'm like, how do they travel at night? And they'll talk about how the witches would like want to go and witch people. Like, I don't know how to like do an interpretation of that, but that's like what they'll say. They'll go and witch people, I guess. You know what I'm saying? So my whole thing is like, I'm trying to picture this. I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. So I remember asking my cousin this. I was like, so if the witch is married and they're laying next to their husband, how do they go and witch people? Because my cousins are like, the witch is witch all the night, like made it seem like it's an everyday 24-hour full-time job, at nighttime. So I was like, wait a minute. How do these witches, Varoi, how do they go and witch people? And if they're married, right? Because in my mind, I'm thinking, maybe the husband might roll over and be like, girl, where you going? And so my cousins and the stories of the Varoi that I'd heard from different people were that Varoi were night walkers. They walked in the nude, right? Not everybody could see them, but those that could see could see. Now that I realize spiritually, they're probably meaning like people that can see. Well, we'll get into you get what I'm saying when we go further. So they would say those people that could see. And I'm like, wait, y'all are not making sense. You still haven't answered. I was about to talk to y'all in Shana. You still haven't answered how these Varoi can see. I mean, Varoi could move out at night. They said, oh yeah, no, their body stays on the bed. And then they just somehow are out of their body. And they go at night and they ride hyenas. I'm like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me the witch's body is laying back in the bed? They said, yeah, because, it's like, what would the husband do? I said, so the husband's just laying next to like a body. They're like, yeah, the Muroi is already gone at nighttime, witching in the village. I'm like, dang it, really? And man, I was young, a little gullible, curious, but a little gullible, so I was like thinking all my life, oh my gosh, these witches, they travel in the night, they leave their bodies and they travel. And they travel on the backs of hyenas. That's what they do. Man, I was so terrified of hyenas all my life. Like, literally, even up to now. Maybe it's just, like, the cackling that is kind of weird and creepy. And sidebar, those are some of the noises we'd hear at nighttime. I mean, it's dark, pitch dark. Like, I'm not going to go pee out there. It might be a whole hyena gang waiting for me. Might be a little bit hungry and whatnot. And I was a little kid, so bite-sized, appetizer. But so, so I was confused, I was young. But these were the stories we just always hear about Varoi witches. They hunt in the night. They leave their bodies in the bed and they ride hyenas and they go and witch people. But you know what? As curious as I was, I never asked what, they go and witch people, but like, what are they doing? Like, are they putting hexes? I mean, like, what's going on? So apparently, right, somebody's always going to say they've seen them because they say those that see, they see, because I was like, oh, so if they go in the night without their body and they're riding hyenas, like, people won't see them? They're like, no, people won't see. Those that see. And I was like, what? Those that see? And then you meet people that will say, oh, yeah, I had an encounter at night. I was walking late with a Moroi. They were naked. So all my life, I'm growing up thinking, those that see. So here I am, 100 years later, JK. Here I am decades later, and I'm like, OMG. So, I mean, astral projection has been, it's had this interesting interpretation, probably in the majority cultures. I mean, that was my first run. Now that it took a couple decades later, when I found out about astral projection and astral travel, I was like, this sounds like something that the Varois was doing. This sounds like what the Varoi were doing. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, no, because what happens is I think that, even though the urban folklore tales were entertaining and inciting, but it's so interesting because now I'm just like, like thinking about some of those stories that I grew up hearing and trying to correlate those to actual meanings. Like there's an actual part of this, right? And so that whole entire story about the witches that witch at night naked on hyenas reminds me of, and I'm not trying to be funny, but it's like there's a term for this, and I'm not saying that people that astral project are witches. I'm just saying, listen, ancient generations after generations, there's a term for leaving your body in the bed and going to hang out. I think hanging out. Now that I'm an adult, of course, I'm not terrified or scared about those stories. They got to me then because it was super dark and I was afraid and I didn't want the witch to come get the kids. And I was a kid, all that other stuff, the stresses of a kid. But so, that was just a fun story just to talk about that. But by no way, means, or shape or form am I correlating astral projection or people that astrally project to be witches. No way. It just was a cute little folklore tale, urban legend, whatever, you would like to title that. But let's go on into this book. Now let's get the research. Okay. This is the research. Okay. Without the tales. Okay. All right. So once again, Astral Travel, the book by Gavin and Yvonne Frost, your guide to the secrets of the out-of-body experiences. All right. So let's go to page 17. Right. Looking and digging deeper to what is astral projection. The lighthearted side of astral travel. Astral projection, or more simply, letting your spirit travel without your body, is one of the most useful and entertaining skills you can ever learn. You can watch others in their daily lives facing and overcoming problems. You can learn what other people honestly think of you. You can find out what really happened in history and what is to happen in the future. In their private lives, people do the most amazing and amusing things. The serious state pillar of the community is often one of the most relaxed people you could ever wish to meet when he is in his own home. People have to relax sometimes, and it seems that those who are the most uptight, the most self-conscious on the outside, are the most amusing when off guard. You can see life as it actually is. That bank manager who's giving you a hard time over your loan will be infinitely more relaxed with you if you can talk to him about his favorite hobby. You will not only know what his hobby is, but you will also know exactly how he feels about it. All right. What do you all think about that so far? So this is, I wanted to, in this book, I'm just taking some little snippets and talking about it. Of course, I respect writers' works, and we won't be going over the entire book. Pick it up, read it, especially if you're serious about perhaps understanding more about astral projection / astral traveling. And I do also recommend that you are very well versed. Okay. And I always recommend you're well versed in all things spiritual. So if you endeavor to do astral traveling, or if you have a question if you did it, or if you just want to strengthen your astral traveling, or if you want to be specific with it, take all seriousness to it. Use everything that you do from my advice. You could do whatever you want with your life, but from my advice, for positivity. Now, that's just the fun part there. That's why it's called the lighthearted side of astral traveling. In the times that I've experienced astral dreams, I've never wanted to project. Never say never. But I would say perhaps I should say I've never desired. I don't call upon wanting to go see, what my best friend is doing in Canada right now, or what. I don't know what someone else is doing, but that's just because there are also protocols to getting you to travel, right? As you lay down and you get yourself cozy and comfortable. And those are things you also learn even in this book itself on how to do that. But I've always with my astral dreamings, what I do with my protocols is mainly for self-growth and just creative help, if that makes sense a little bit. Just, when I write, if I need a place, a location, especially when I'm diving into fantasy and so forth and all that other stuff. So, and I'm not judgy. I'm just saying, as a person that's, responsible for this podcast here, I just want people to know, because this is what I say: the spiritual knowledge and awareness of all things spiritual. When you have your spiritual glasses on, when you are in your spiritual dream realm, when you're in your spiritual being, in your waking state, for me, it's always the positive light. I go towards that because I've often told people, you could do whatever you want with your spirituality, but just understand it. You could go and summon and call forth all kinds of energies. But remember, the energies that you invite into your space, depending on the types that you invoke for your life. I won't even say remember, but I will say understand. Understand those energies that you invoke and or invite in your space, and what the deals. Understand and be clear about the deals of those energies. All right. I say that because I'm not a judgmental person. Spirituality and getting into the depths of spiritual living itself is just like the most amazing thing on life, right? I once had a conversation with somebody, because like I said, I grew up all my life in church and so forth, that said something about, I think they're talking about demons or something like that. Yeah, I said, you can have demons work for you. You can summon a demon to work for you. But just remember, when you involve that type of energy, it's going to come back to harvest from you. Just be prepared. That's why I tell people, if you're endeavoring to do the astral projection, learn a lot more about it. Learn to what state of mind you're in. Learn to understand your vibration, your frequency. So when you do go to sleep, to astrally project, to astrally dream, right? You don't want to find yourself in lower vibrational states or in unhappy places. I'm just saying. Word to the wise. Word to the wise. All right, so let's continue, right? So, we're running out of time. We're going to be continuing with the part 2, of course, and there's a couple more I want to touch base with without going over the entire book. But also, right before we conclude, I was giving you a little quick disclaimer there about understanding astral traveling and all this other good stuff. And the first part we learned about is the lighthearted side and the fun part of it, right? And for those that are still wondering what is astral, because I like to kind of break it down, layman's term, not saying that you're layman. I am layman. I like layman terms. If anyone has watched Spider-Man, I think it's called Spider-Man and No Way Home, the latest Spider-Man that just came out, there's a part in there that he's kind of going back and forth with Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange kind of puts like his little power, his hand at Spider-Man, and he kind of like gets into the air a little bit slow-mo, and then you kind of see what I would say an astral body. So if you're a visionary, or if you like visual pictures there, that could be, something we could use as an example mildly, because I'm pretty sure the writers beg to differ, but just as a visual. So now let's what I wanted to do was also, okay, let's go to part 2. And how about this? We will talk about one of my astral dreams, and then we'll get into the next part, which is going to really be shocking to you, because you're going to find out that you may have actually astral traveled. You, my friend. All right, you can find me on Instagram under Memory Bengesa-Mosley. And Bengesa is Bengesa-Mosley. And once you're over there, check out the linktree/author MB Mosley. You will find a list of all my links where to purchase my books. Or you can also take one of my writing courses, and you can follow the Vetting Guy Publishing House. And or you can check out the next book releases. You also have my full website available there where you can go to the blog section and print off your dream sheet templates. And I guess who's an Amazon influencer with the storefront? Check that out. And don't forget to click on the American Dreamer clothing. Yes, honey, yes. And then, of course, you have a link to the YouTube where I do upload some of the Dream Decoding Podcast. And it's an interactive platform as well. We can talk on Instagram and or we can chat on YouTube. And definitely there's a Facebook link. And all these links are associated with my Instagram, IG, Memory Bengesa-Mosley.
For God speaks in one way and or in two, though man does not perceive it. He speaks in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on men while they slumber on their beds. Happy dreaming.